Good morning, Rabbi Isai. A guten Chodesh. It's Elul. Elul. Oh, sorry. I have to lower this like that. Oh, okay. Yesterday I was saying that there's a kollel guy that used to scream out. He still does. I'm sure in his house in Bidud he screams Elul like in the middle of Seder. You're learning. All of a sudden he was not from Hebron. Mendy corrected me. He was from Ateres. Reborch Mordechai Ezrachi does it. Elul. Anyway, today's Shiur is being sponsored by Simon Gavzi from my father's yahrzeit. Yeshayahu ben Tzvi, and Shama should have an aliyah. Sponsored by Michael Stern. Lili Nishmois Horai Yikarim. I hope I got this right. It's kind of confusing. Yaakov Tzvi, but again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows who we're talking about. Yaakov Tzvi ben Michael Chaim Tzipora. I hope. And then Miriam Bas Shalom Ubchayra. Or maybe it's Tzipora Miriam Bas Shalom Ubchayra. Wasn't sure. Alright, the Neshama should have an aliyah. Today is a very special day. We have the changing of the guards, the turning to Daf. Amud Beis, which was initiated by official. So one guy with one idea. And today, this month, we have two sponsors for it. So look, you're reaping benefits. From Simon Gavzi, it says, Hi Rebelli, he's the sponsor today, one of the sponsors. Amazing Siyum Shabbos, Kol Kavod to all your team. That's right, the entire team, everybody worked so really hard, all the way from Noam Fix, who was running the Siyum and looking around for hotels, and Baruch Hashem, we couldn't find one. Baruch Hashem, there was Corona, and we had the Siyum of our life. To Nachman Seltzer, to Gary Ben Moshe, unbelievable. You can't even imagine how many hours the man put in. But he doesn't like to be mentioned, so I'm not going to mention Gary Ben Moshe, who worked so hard. Kol kavod to all your team, and to, of course, Yeshua, chasing people and reminding people to log in, and to Yosef Biliag Bechulu. My father, I don't know even how to pronounce this, Cecil Gavzi, Yeshua ben Tzvi, 17th yahrzeit of Rosh Chodesh Elul. Since my father is widely read and loved learning, this is a very apt way to celebrate his life. So please learn in your integral way, which is infectious and enjoyable in my father's merit. Love your well-illustrated Daf Yomi, which helps the whatever like me to understand tricky concepts. Warm regards from Edgeware. So yesterday we had Adam Labato. I love that guy. The guy also, I forgot to mention even, like yesterday, he sponsored the Shiur, but he goes out of his way and he's advertising. He wants to bring more people into Edgeware. He came up with the beautiful wording that other people used. And here's another Edgeware man. But there's only 3 guys by the Siyum, but the Be'ez Hashem next Siyum will be a lot larger. You know what? Let's jump into the Gemara. We have a lot to accomplish today. And we have a message from Asher Amer. We'll do it later. Says the Mishnah.
Your mother.
Oh. It says right here by Mishnah, it says, Le'ilu nishmas. You're holding the trigger. You knew I was going to miss it. Le'ilu nishmas rusbas Mordechai. And I mentioned Asher, who yesterday sponsors. I should have remembered my mother. Shem Yirachem. Says the Mishnah, Hechsher Mavui. So we're very familiar with this Mishnah, with the concepts here. You have a Mavui. You have a house that opens up into a courtyard, into a chutzner. The chutzner opens up into an alleyway called a mavui. So typically you have 2 houses that open up into a chutzner. Then you have another 2 houses that open up to another chutzner. So now you have 2 chatzeros, and those 2 chatzeros open up to an alleyway, a mavui. What do? You want to carry in the mavui. Midarais, you can carry in the mavui, not a problem. Rabbanan came along and they said you have to make some sort of hecker. By the way, if you're tuning in now and if I get to say it later, Motzi Shabbos, there's a change of time, a slight change. We're going earlier to 9:15. Wow, Ben Schwartz is on. So if Ben Schwartz is on, I have to mention Reben Schwartz from the 5 Towns, who sponsored. I'm not exactly sure how it worked out over there with Kalman, not Kalman, but a tremendous Yisher Koyach for going out of your way and getting the napkins to match the bags that matched the art scroll. Look, I have this thing here. I want to show you. This is what people got, but it was edible. It looked just like this, an art scroll Gemara cake. They went all out over there. Everything had an MDY logo. The bag, they gave you a bag to take home your mug that had an MDY, but the bag had MDY. The mamish went all out. And
it was my wife, it was not me.
Yeah, I know, yeah. This is his wife, not him. So, his wife also learns the daf, l'chayra, right? Oh, Reb Shia is here. Reb Shia Greenfield is on just to see the changing of the guards. So yeah, tremendous yishkoch to him. And my daughter happened to be there with my son-in-law. I don't know if they brought their baby. And she said it was just an amazing event, and it was raining, and people stayed in the rain, and Bar Park had the same problem. So anyways, shout out to the 5 towners. Akoparim. Hechsher mavoi. Bishamay oimrim lechi v'koiro, beisil oimrim oy lechi oy koiro. So Bishamay say you need 2 things. You need the lechi and the koiro, not either or. Beisil say either or. What kind of mavoi are we talking about? There are 2 types of mavois, and that the Gemara is going to discuss. We're talking about the mavi that we're talking about until now, the mavi sasum, the dead end, the one that looks like a ches. It's not mefulish, it doesn't go through and through. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Eliezer oimer l'choyayim, you need 2 lechis. Is he arguing on them? Is he adding? B'shum Rabbi Shmuel Omar, Talmud Echad Lefnei Rabbi Kiva. Talmud Echad, the Gemara is going to later on describe as Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir was the Talmud of Rabbi Kiva, who said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, there was no machloikis when the mavoi is less than 4 amas. Then everybody would agree. Let me get this into focus here. Maybe I move out of the way a little bit. Why is this not working so well? I don't know. Fine. If it's less than 4 amas, less than 8 feet, let's say, then one is enough. Either a lechi or a koira. Where's the machlokes? So from 4 amas to 10 amas, machlokes whether you need 2 or 1 is enough. You need both of them. Rebbe Kiva argues, the machlokes is the entire spectrum from less than 4 amas all the way to 10 amas. Obviously, more than 10 is Zoom frozen. Somebody just wrote that Zoom is frozen. I see everybody good. Last night we had a little bit of technical issues. Gary was here. When Gary is around, he likes to play around. We got a brand new camera, but maybe it's not as good as the other camera. The kids we're trying to figure it out. Today we're back to normal. The sound. Okay, listen, I could get you better sound, but then I won't be able to hear you. Because I broke Gary's camera, remember? Let's just listen. We'll use it as is. I think it's better that you could interrupt me, shtickle. Okay, fine. So Rebbe Kiva says, the machlokes is everywhere, even less than 4 amas, more than 4 amas, up to 10 amas. Great. Now, before we go into the Gemara, I do have to say, I haven't seen Daddy Kormluth in ages, so Shalom Aleichem to Daddy Kormluth. Shalom Aleichem to Judah David, to Rabbi Yehuda David, Shalom Aleichem to Rachman Seltzer. All my good buddies are back on. The original guys from 2.5 years ago, they're right on the first screen. Beautiful, I love it. I don't mean to snob everybody. Everybody gets nervous when I say that, but I haven't mentioned their names in such a long time. It's geschmack to see you guys. All right, it says the Gemara. Kiman. So what's going on here? If you remember, the loike chananya v'loike tanakama. So we had this whole sugya. When you have, how come this is not in order? What's going on here, Rabbi's side? Right. Here's a mavoi mafulash. This is a mavoi. If you look closely, you have a highway up here, and you have a highway down here, and the mavoi goes through and through. So what do you do if it goes through and through? So you make a tzuras hapesach over here, according to the Tanakama, and down here you could do a lechi. You just need 1 tzuras hapesach, 1 frame, and 1 vertical. That's according to the Tanakama. Then comes Chananya and says, no, there's a machlokes beishamim b'sil what you need to do. That was that whole sugya. We're not going to go into the sugya. But here, just to remind you the pictures that we had back then, what daf was a daf vav. Okay? 1 door set, 2 doors in the back. Also, Beishami say you need 2, Beisil says you need 1. But this is lachim mefulash. So what's going on with our Mishnah? How does it fit with our Mishnah that all you need is a lechi or a lechi and a kaira, no mention of doors, no mention of Tzursa Pesach, nothing. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Hachi Kamar, Hechsha Mavi Sasim Ketza. We're not talking about this Mavi Mefulish. This Mishnah is talking about this case of a Mavui where there's a back wall, it's a dead end, and a dead end, all it requires either, according to Beis Hillel, one lechi or one kaira, according to Beis Shammai, a lechi and a kaira. But you certainly don't need doors, you don't need a Tzursa Pesach. Says the Gemara, Beis Shammai lechi v'kaira. So Beis Shammai say you need both. If we're talking about you have already 3 existing walls, come Beis Shammai say, but you have to add a lechi and a kaira. Why? Because they hold that you need a 4th wall, the eraisa, and you need to do it really well. You need to put up a lechi, you need to put up a kaira, you need to do the whole thing, you need to fill it up. Says Gemara Loi, Lizra Mishalishu. So we had this concept already earlier in the Masechta. Let's repeat it again. When the Gemara is referring to a da'iraisa, the Gemara refers to it lizraik, meaning, if I take an object and I throw it from a Reshus HaRabim into my mavui, take an object, throw it into my mavui, I'm over on a da'iraisa. So to be over on a da'iraisa, all I need is 3 walls. So why are they saying 4? Lizraik mishalishu the mechayiv. In other words, mid da'iraisa, lizraik means, instead of saying the word da'iraisa, the Gemara uses the word lizraik. So to throw it, all I need is 3, meaning a da'iraisa tells me if I have 3 walls, it's another reshus. It's a private domain called the Reshus HaYachid. And when I go from Reshus HaYachid to Reshus HaRabim, or from Reshus HaRabim to Reshus HaYachid, I'm over da'iraisa. The Taltal ad Ika Arba, but Rabbanu were machmir, and they said, I don't allow you to carry within your mavui until you put up a 4th wall. Not that the 4th wall makes it a da'iraisa. The da'iraisa was already from 3 walls. The 4th wall, say Beis Shammai, just allow you to carry there midrabbanan, because Rabbanan were extra machmir, and they said, make another heker, do more stuff there. Beis Hillel So Beis Hillel say you only need 1. So if you only need 1, so a lechi is not going to make it a real wall da'iraisa. So lema kasari Beis Hillel shalish mechitzas da'iraisa. Perhaps you could say that 3 walls, according to Beis Hillel, is the da'iraisa, and they say add a little bit derabanan, add a lechi to it. Says Gemara Loi, lizroik mishtayim with the mechayiv. Beis Hillel actually go all the way down. 2 walls. In other words, I don't have. When the Gemara says these things, it doesn't mean that that's what Beis Hillel holds. The Gemara just says there's no hechrach. It's not proven from here. You can't prove anything. You want to prove that Beis Hillel holds that 3 walls makes it da'iraisa? No. Perhaps they hold that 2 walls make it da'iraisa. And in order to carry, you need 3, and you have to stick in a little bit and a mashu. 3 and a little bit of a lechi. That's the derabanan. So when Rebbe Lezer adds, we have a machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Do you need 1 lechi, or do you need a lechi and a kaira? Or 1 kaira and a lechi? Or, either a lechi or a kaira, 1 or both. And then comes Rebbe Lezer and says, oh, you need 2 lechis. But is he adding the 2 lechis to the kaira, or is it just his own sheet of 2? 2 lechis is enough. Says the Gemara Tashma Rebbe Eliezer Shalach Eitzel Rabbi Yossi ben Preda. I'll bring you a raya. Rebbe Eliezer went to Rabbi Yossi ben Preda. Talmidoi. Who was his Talmud? Lo'ivlin is the name of a place. Daf Amud Aleph on top. She was sitting b'mavi she'ein lo yela lechi echad, and he sees his Talmud sitting there with 1 lechi. Amaloi b'ni. I say lechi acher. You need another lechi. Amaloi v'chi l'sasman nitzarach. What I need to fill it all up. And you fill in the gap. What do you want me to do? Yes. Who cares? But you need 2 lechis. So you see that it's 2 lechis without a kaira. Omar Reb Shimon Gamliel. So the Gemara understands in the beginning, and we're going to go away from it. But klum, if you just read it, you just translate Hebrew, klum means nothing. So you think that Reb Shimon Gamliel says, when Beishami B'Silal don't argue at all. If the mavoi is less than 4 amas, you don't need anything. You don't need a lechi, you don't need a kaira. The Gemara says that can't be. But that's what the Gemara understood right now. If it's less than 4 amas opening, you don't need a lechi or a kaira. If it's more than 4 amas, va'adeser. So from 4 to 10. 10, we always say, a gap that's more than 10 amas ruins the mavoi. You can't do anything about it. The machlokes is from 4 to 10. Bishami say you need 2, Beis Hillel says one or the other. So the Gemara continues with this right. He says, the Talmud tells him, to Rebbe Eliezer, do I need a do I have to close it all up? If he already had a lechi and a kaira, then it makes sense. He's closing it from all directions. He has the top, he has the side, and now he tells him, do another side. You're completely, certainly la halacha, you're completely closed in. It's a complete closure. But if it's just 2 lechis, why did he tell him, oh, you're making me close up my mavoi? Why is that closing up? You have a broomstick on one side, a broomstick on the other side. Why is that considered closing it up? Says Gemara, Hachi Kamar. Yeah. Look, halachically, since you have it on both sides, you're creating a whole closure. And he asked him, why do I have to do it? And he said, you have to do it. But at the end of the day, you have to do it perhaps without a kaira. No raya from there, whether or not you need a kaira on top. Omar Mar, Omar we just learned. Omar Mar means we just learned the sugya, and it just repeats it over again. Omar There's no machlokes between Risham and Yisrael on less than 4 amas. You don't need a lechi, you don't need a kaira. You could carry in this mavoi. The rice you could carry. Rabbanan never said you have to do anything. The Gemara you need something. If it's pachis ma'arba amos, you need a lechi or a kaira. Omer Ravashi, Hachi Kamar. Ein nitzar lechi bekoyer ke beishamai, veloy lechayim ke Rebbe Eliezer, ella oy lechi oy koyer ke Beis Hillel. So when he said you don't need anything, he didn't mean you don't need anything. He was just saying you don't need to overdo it. But of course you need something. You need the basics. You need the bare minimum. You need a lechi. You need a broomstick. You don't need 2 broomsticks. That's what he's saying. V'kama Omer Avachlai v'Yisema Rav Yechiel ad arba. Okay, so yes, if it's less than 4 tfachim, then you don't need anything. Less than 4 tfachim is what we call a mokim patur. Doesn't require anything. Now, if you think about it for a second, it's really, we're only discussing 1 tefach here. Because less than 3 tfachim is already lavud. That's already closed up halachically anyway. So, from 3 and less, it's not even a discussion. From 4 and more, that's what we're discussing. But from 3 to 4, says the Gemara, you don't need anything. So in other words, from 0 to 4, you don't need anything. But from 0 to 3, you don't need anything for a different reason. You don't need anything because it's lavud. But from 3 to 4, that 1 tefach, I'm telling you a chiddush, that you don't need anything because it's a makom patur. Now, so they explain that maybe it opens at a 4, but it becomes wider because otherwise you're talking about a whole mavoi that's a makom patur. So you want a mavoi that's a real mavoi that has some width to it, becomes wider later on. Orav Sheishis Omer Rav Yirmi Ber Abba Omer Rav. Moedim Chachamim LeRebbe Eliezer BePasi Chotzer. So now we're going to discuss Chotzer. So we have like this. Let's see. What did I do with it? Hold on a second. Okay. So here's your house. Your houses are over here. They go into a courtyard that's in front of your house. You have 2 houses that go into one courtyard. These 2 courtyards go into the mavoi. So Gemara says like this. A chotzer typically comes right out of the house. But a chotzer is something else, says the Gemara. A chotzer needs to be, as we're going to see later on in the Gemara, it needs to be square versus a mavoi, which is a rectangle, which is narrow, like we have today, a narrow street. It's narrow and long. But if it's long and narrow, it's not a mavoi. So we're going to have a whole sugya now. What exactly do you need to make a chotzer mutter? Not a mavoi. Up until now we're discussing mavoi. We're going to have a shita that says you need 2 pasim, 2 like lechis, or even a shita that says 2 lechis that are 3 tvachim. We have a shita that says it's 1 pas that's 4 tvachim, or maybe 2 pasim that are mashu. Because we're going to go back and forth, different shitas here. So hold cup a little bit. Not complicated, just a lot of information. Omer Rav Sheshes, Omer Rav Yirmiyah, Barabba, Omer Rav. In the name of Rav, Moedim Chachamim Rav Eliezer bepasei chotzer. Rav Eliezer is the one in the Mishnah that said when it comes to mavui, you need 2 lechis. Oh, everybody agrees that when it comes to chotzer, you need 2. Comes Rav Nachman and says, not true. That is in fact the halacha that you need 2, but not everybody agrees to it. Don't tell me everybody agrees to it. Rav Nachman Omar, halacha ki Rav Eliezer b'pasei chotzer. You're right, you need 2. You need 2 marks, 2 on both sides, as we had the other day by the chotzer k'tana, chotzer g'dayla. You need 2. Halacha ki Rav Eliezer b'pasei chotzer. But not everybody agrees to it. That's what you have to stick in there. Not everybody agrees to it. Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak, man moedim, Rebbe, the famous Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, the author of the Mishnah, he's the one that agrees that you need 2. Halacha, so Rabbi Nachman says, the halacha is like, so anytime you say halacha is like so-and-so, that means somebody argues on him. Otherwise you wouldn't say the halacha is so-and-so. It's just a statement that everybody agrees to. Halacha mechlal de pligi, man polig alei rabbanon. You must say that you have Rebbe against rabbanon. The Sanya chotzer niteres b'pasechod, Rebbe Yomer b'shnei pasim. Rebbe says you need 2 pasim. Omer Abbasin, that's what we had yesterday. If you recall, when we were talking about the chotzer k'tana, chotzer g'dayla, Rebbe holds you need 2 on both sides. Going back here, you have the small chotzer that's only 10 amas wide. You have the large chotzer that's 11 amas wide. But if you look closely, you have this wall, because this was breached. This used to be a wall between the chatzeres. It fell down. What's left over is this piece right over here, and on this side, this piece over here. But they're saying you need 2. You need 2 pieces to enable you to carry the chotzer g'dayla. Chotzer tana, we said you can't carry because those 2 pieces are not visible. Omer Rav Asi Rav Yochanan, chotzer tzricha shtei pasim. Omer Rav Zera Rav Asi, mi Omer Rav Yochanan hachi. Did Rabbi Yochanan actually say this? Va'atu da amris mishmei de Rabbi Yochanan, pasei chotzer tzrichim sheyeh b'hem arba. You said that the pas has to be 4 tfachim. Now, v'chiteim arba mikan v'arba mikan. So what's the big deal? So he said 4. The measurement is 4 tfachim. Why is that a contradiction to what we're saying? Maybe you need 2 walls and each one is 4 tfachim. That can't fit in to the case of chotzer k'tana. Why? We explained when it came to the case of chotzer k'tana and chotzer g'dayla, this case right over here. We're talking about a case that the g'dayla is only 1 amma wider than the k'tana. 1 amma equals 6 tfachim. So even if you divide it perfectly in half, it's 3 and 3. You'll never get to 4 and 4. So you can't say that Rabbi Yochanan held that you need 2 walls that are 4 tefachim each. It's maximum 2 walls that are 3 tefachim each. Reb Zera came up from the ocean, Perishon explained, so he says very nicely, and we're going to use this teretz later on in Shmuel as well. You have a contradiction. Not a contradiction. When you have 1 wall only, you have to have that wall. It has to be a significant wall. It has to be 4 tefachim wide. But when you're going to do 2 walls, that's great. 2 walls is better than 1. Over there, you don't need 4 tefachim. You can do broomsticks. A broomstick on one side, a broomstick on the other side. That's why over here, they have 2 walls. They could be 3 tefachim. Now, why is it 3 tefachim, not 2 broomsticks? Because there's a shita that says it has to be 3 tefachim. That's Rabbi Yossi, as we had yesterday. But only in mashu, we hold, all you need is a broom. Oh, but the Tani Adar Bar Avimi. What are we going to do with Adar Bar Avimi that says that it's an amma wider? An amma is much more than 2 mashus. Rebbe, Besavalok Rebbe Yosi. It's Shitas Rebbe that you need 2, right? Rebbe is the one that says you need 2 pasim. When it comes to Chatzar, you need 2 hekers. And you have to add Rebbe Yosi that says not only do you need 2, but each one needs to be at least 3. So therefore, I gave you a Chatzar Gdoila that's 1 amma larger than the Chatzar Ktana. Divide that in half, and I have 2 pieces on each side, 2 hekerim. These are very noticeable, and each one is 3 tfachim. Omer Rav Yosef, Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Shmuel. Here comes Shmuel. Says Rav Yehuda. Rav Yosef says that Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, all you need is 1 piece. And I cheated. I told you that at the end of the Gemara, we're going to say the same thing. 1 piece means either 4 tfachim. 2 pieces are going to be in 2 brooms. So we're starting to see this thing again. So you have Shmuel, who always says over in the name of Shmuel? Rav Yehuda. Who always says the name of Rav? Rav Yehuda. Who does Rav Yosef quote? Rav Yosef quotes Rav Yehuda. And Abaya always asks Rav Yosef. Also Rav asks Rav Yosef. Because it's the same Amoraim over and over. We start to become more and more familiar with them. Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rav Yosef, right? Yesterday we had, when was it? That Rav Yosef forgot his learning, and Abaya had to remind him, maybe 2 days ago. Amar Shmuel Hachi. Did Shmuel say you need 4 tfachim? When it came to a chatzar, he says, don't do ella oiberoiv doifen oibeshnei pasim. Do 2 strips, or a majority of the wall. So here's another concept that we didn't have until now. We had 4 tfachim so far. We had 2 mashahus. We had 3 tfachim times 2. Here comes another one. Roiv doifen. You need a majority of the wall, or 2 strips. But he doesn't mention anything about 4 tfachim. Omalei. So Rav Yosef says, I don't know anything. All I know is one thing. Uvda havda bedur ravasa, and we had this place, interesting place. It's a shepherd village somewhere. That l'shon yama nichnas l'chatzar hava. What happened was the ocean broke into this. They had a beautiful property on the ocean with the ocean view. Big tsunami came and broke down the wall and comes into his backyard. Vazlik amid Rav Yehuda, who's Shmuel's Talmud, who says over in the name of Shmuel. They came to Rav Yehuda, what should we do? So they said, if this is the case, you have a tsunami that came in here, here's water through and through all the way to the Chatzar. So what you do is you make one little wall over here, and now I could draw the water. What's the ocean? The ocean is a Carmelis. Carmelis is a Rishus D'Rabbanan. You can't carry them in the Rabbanan. So in the Rabbanan, I can't go from my Chatzar into the ocean. If I put a wall over here, now I can draw from the ocean. I can take water. So the Gemara says, what's the raya? You bring me a raya from a case of an ocean? That's a special kula. The Chachamim said you could get away with anything. Do anything you want, and you could use the water. So this is a beautiful story, by the way. I really like the picture in my Mesifta, but this is what it comes out when I try to print it. Very blurry, but you get to see a guy with a pail and mechitzat lui. Let me show you what it looks like when you print it off the PDF thing. This is a different company, a different sefer, but it's a lot clearer. I don't like the picture as much, but because it's clear, we have to use it. Basically, he's creating a box. This box, 10 tefachim 4. We're going to go into it much deeper in Daf Zayin. The point over here is the guy wants to draw water from underneath his porch. So he builds a box, and this box allows him. You can see it maybe better in this picture. This is from our Daf. No. So this is the pail. That's what I was saying. The other picture, the pail is blue, and here's the box, and it goes down into the water, and he draws the water. But this is a kula that Chacham said that everybody needs water, you need to live. So they made a kula, like they made a kula for animals, pasei birais, middle of Rosh Hashanah. They made a kula when it comes to water. We allow you to make a little box. So don't bring me any rice from water. Water came into the backyard, you can make a little mechitza. But perhaps you need 2 pasim. Maybe you need something else. Now, mechitza tluya ma'u shetad b'churva means a churva is ruins. And a lot of times the ruins, the wall falls down, you have the top part of the wall, but not the bottom part of the wall. So is that a proper mechitza or not? Amar lei, ei mechitza tluya materis ela b'mayim. A suspended wall, like this case over here, only works with water, but it won't work with a typical wall, a mechitza on Shabbos. Kalu shekilu chacham b'mayim. But at the end of the day, we have a contradiction in Shmuel. Does Shmuel require 4 tfachim? Does it require 2 pasim? What does it require exactly? So they explained it. If you're using, like we said before, if you're only going to use 1 wall, make it a proper wall, a proper pas arba. It should be 4 tfachim wide. But if you're going to do 2 hekerim, 2 different walls, mashu lekan, then you can use a broomstick on either end. Mazel tov, Yeshua. Wow, Mazel tov. So our good friend Yeshua in Price, the engine of the Shiur, had a baby girl. In the middle of learning, we'll stop for him till say Mazel tov, Yeshua, Shetiska, Legadla. And I hope you call her. I hope you have the name already. If you don't, obviously we all know what the name is. Her name will be Daf. Okay.
No, it's not about the Daf. It's about the Yomi.
Wow, that's a good one. You can't even call her Daf Yomi because people might confuse and they might say that it's about the Daf. So you're saying just to call her Yomi. Wow, interesting, very interesting.
You know, Yoshua made that phone call from inside the delivery room. This is the first phone call, no doubt.
No, what I think happened was that his wife delivered the baby 6 hours ago, and he waited until the middle of the daf. That's my own personal feeling here. You could touch it up any way you want. Says the Gemara, Mazel Tov. Unfortunately, we have to move. Where are we holding? Hashem Yirach. I had no idea. He's calling me, and I figured if he's calling me in the middle of shares, it must be an emergency. That's why I picked it up. But I have a different question. So we answered. One place where Shmuel says you need 4 tfachim because he only did 1 wall. One place where he says you could do a small little tiny thing because he's doing 2 walls. But I have another kasha, says Rav Papa. If you recall, he said, make sure you do a roiv doifen. The majority of the wall. But what do I need it? 1 strip of 4 is enough. Why do I need most? So he's imagining in his head that the gap is 10 amas, and he has to do 5.5 amas to get a roiv. You need a majority. Why do you need a majority? Why do you need 5 amas? Do 4 tvachim. Says the Gemara, no, maybe we're talking about an opening that is 7. The barba avali roiv doifen, and 4 is the majority. Lomeli arba. So what? Still, why do you need 4? Bishloishu mashru sagi. Once you have 3 and a little bit, then you have less than 4 opening. Then you're good. Why do I need a 4 tfachim wall? Why do I need a roiv tfachim? Roiv. Why do I need a roiv? All you need is, in other words, we learned before, an opening that's less than 4 is a makim tur, doesn't require anything, doesn't require lechi. So if your entire opening is 7 and you bridged the gap by 3 tfachim, now you're left with less than 4. Less than 4, you don't need anything. So where do you come on to 4 tfachim or roiv doifen? Yibai seima kan bechatzer kan b'mavoi. If the mavoi is less than 4, you don't need a lechi, but a chatzer you do need. So I'm going to make a distinction between a chatzer and a mavoi. The Rav Achli Gufei Tanoi, that there's a machlokes in Rav Achli, and Shmuel didn't know who the passing, so he just went l'chumra, and that's why he requires more. Going back to the case that a guy got flooded by an ocean, you need a mechitza that's 10 tfachim high. That's only if the opening is, the gap is more than 10. You don't need anything. You don't need the 10 tfachim. Mimla, says the Gemara, you don't draw water. We're talking about drawing water. But what about carrying? Not a problem to carry. Why? It's your own rishus. Why? How could you do so? Anytime, and we mentioned this a few times, even the chatzar ktana, chatzar gdola, we had once, the mavui going into the chatzar. If I have a place that's also for me to carry, and that's the ocean, and it's wide open into my backyard, now my backyard became usher to carry, even though I had an Eruvin in my backyard, but now they're open to each other. It takes on the chumrah of the ocean. And now Rabbi Isai, the changing of the guard, it's Rish Chodesh, today's daf, Yud Beis Amud Beis, sponsored by two people. By Asher, who says, you have to make it a great day. And the whole thing, I can't read it now, unfortunately. Avram Beirach is Hashem Bakol. He says, Bakol means making your day great. You could choose to make your day a great day. And by Dr. Listhouse, who, by the way, made his first siyum with us, and his second siyum with us in his life, Shabbos. He learns, unbelievable, he's a doctor in Pennsylvania. He learns 1 hour by himself, prepares, and then he does the shiur with us on Zoom. So it's Eli Nishmas, his father, that today is his 100th birthday, but his nifta like 40 years ago, but today is his thing. What's his name? I need his name somewhere. Somebody give me his name. Says the Gemara, very interesting. Yeah.
Once you pause, we just have an urgent ritual also for a daughter of David Dimberg.
Right.
Today's daf, it just came in. You got it?
I don't have the name. Tell me, I saw it a brief flash. What was it? David Dimber's daughter here in Eretz Yisrael, right?
Yeah. She needs it urgently, and he asked a few times if the whole Chabura davened for her. Chana Gabriela Bas Esther Rivka.
Chana Gabriela Bas Esther Rivka L'Refuah Shlema. Okay, so Rabbi, so we still have Motzei Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos could go from 9:15. We're starting at 9:15, but it could go all the way to 12. It's not a problem. We'll finish up. Don't worry about it. Gidude means, I don't know if you can see clearly here in this picture, but this wall is underwater. I just highlighted it with the red. And if you see here, it's broken up. So you have a wall here, 10, but it's broken. So the ocean covers it. And Memela, you cannot draw water. It's another rishus, it's a carmelis, but you could carry, we're still using the wall, the barrier that you had from your chatzar. It fell down, yes, the ocean came and breached it, but it left gidude. So you're dealing with a rishus hayachid. You're in a rishus hayachid, so you could carry. But you cannot draw water because that water is still considered carmelis. Like we're playing on two chasanas here. The water is a carmelis water. It's drawn in. There's a whole taisus here that explains it, that basically when it comes in, it's nimshach from there, so that's a carmel. You are in a rishus hayachid, so you could carry. Omer Rav Yehuda, mavoi shelo yishtafu boi. If you have a mavoi, again, you have the alleyway, and you're supposed to make an eruv. It's called a shituf mavais, otherwise known as an eruv. When it comes to mavoi, we call it a shituf. What you're doing is you're telling all the people that own it, that are there, they should all it should be one ownership. You take a challah and an egg, whatever you want to do, you put a meal aside, you say, okay, we all own this together. What if you don't do that? If you used a lechi so you could carry there, but you didn't do the eruv, in other words, the lechi is so powerful that it made my mavoi or rishus hayachid. So if I throw an object from the Rishus Rabbim into Rishus HaYachid, you're over, a da'iraisa, because through the lechi I created a Rishus HaYachid. Now, Hechshira b'kaira, very interesting. A kaira is different, says the Gemara. If I use the kaira, so it's not strong enough, I didn't make it into a Rishus HaYachid, hazar l'toichai patur. So if I throw an object from Rishus HaRab into my mavoi, it's not a Rishus HaYachid completely, because it didn't do the job. So it's patur. What does that mean? Because the kaira acts as a heker, not as a mechitza. So I don't have a true wall here. Whereas a lechi acts as a mechitza, and therefore it's separated and made my mavoi into Rishus HaYachid. Something doesn't make sense here. You're telling me that it's a case where he didn't make an Eruv, meaning that if he made an Eruv, it would be a Rishus HaYachid. How could that be? What, putting a challah and an egg creates a Rishus HaYachid? How do you make a Rishus HaYachid? You be chayav as a Rishus HaYachid, so he has a kaira on the top, which doesn't make a Rishus HaYachid, and he adds a piece of bread, and all of a sudden it becomes Rishus HaYachid. If you have a chatzar that belongs to the public, or a wide open mavoi that goes through and through, not a dead end, ben yirvu ben lo yirvu, whether or not you made an eruv, hazorig l'toichan chayav. You throw in there, you're chayav. Eloi yitmar hachi yitmar. Omer Rabbi Yehuda mavi she'ein roy l'shituf. Says the Gemara, no, what we're not talking about. Well, we are talking. Let's talk. We are talking. Mavi she'ein. We're not saying that he didn't put a challah there. Did put a challah. We're talking about a plate. Is it this place roy? Could you even do an eruv there? What does that mean? In other words, are we dealing with a mavi mefulash or a mavi sasum? Is it a closed mavi, a dead end mavi that's sasum, or is it a mavi mefulash that's wide open from both sides? When I tell you that he didn't do an eruv, I'm trying to say I'm dealing with a mavi that you can never do an eruv. It's a mavi mefulash. So therefore, if it's a mavi mefulash, we know already you need a tzuras pesach plus a lechi, at least. Hechshir b'lechi hazayrek l'toich chayav. Hechshir b'kaira hazayrek l'toich patur. So if I add a lechi, great, then it becomes a Rishus HaYachid. If I just do a kaira, you're patur. Alma kasavar lechi mishum mechitza, v'kaira mishum heker. So you see from here that a lechi acts as a mechitza, it's a wall, and makes it into Rishus HaYachid, but not a kaira. V'chein omer Rabba lechi mishum mechitza, v'kaira mishum heker. We see the same thing that Rabba says, but Rava argues, Rava Amar echad zeh v'echad zeh mishum heker. Even a lechi is not a mechitza, a lechi is a heker. Eisvei Rav Yaakov bar Abba l'Rava. How could you tell me that a lechi is a heker? It says, hazarik l'mavoi, if you throw something from Rishus HaRabim into mavoi, yesh lechi chayav. Now, wait a minute. If a lechi is only a heker, how could a heker create another rishus? If you tell me it's a mechitza, great, it makes a lot of sense. With putting up a lechi, I made a Rishus HaYachid, and if I throw into it, I'm chayav. But if it's just for me to recognize, then it doesn't work. Says Gemara, yesh lechi chayav and lechi patur. How's that possible? Says Gemara, hachi k'amar. It's not pshat that he made a lechi. Hachi k'amar, and it's tzarich elo lechi hazarik l'toich chayav. If it's a mavi sasam, again going back to that pshat, if it's possible to put a lechi there, in other words, it's a dead end, it's a mavi sasam, then it's a Rishus HaYachid, even if you don't put the lechi. We're talking about Rishus HaYachid, we're talking about something that has three mechitzos, it is closed off from three sides, therefore it's considered another domain, and if you throw there, you're chayav. Lechi v'dover acher, but if it's a mavi mefulash, that you need a tzuras ha-pesach and the lechi v'dover acher, and a tzuras ha-pesach, hazorig l'tachei pater. Why? Because I'm throwing from a Rishus HaRabim into a Rishus HaRabim. The mavi is not another Rishus. The mavi is a mavi mefulash. It's another street, it's a side street. So if I throw from Rishus HaRabim into Rishus HaRabim, I'm not over. I'm only over when I throw from one Rishus to another Rishus. Beisvei, Yeser al-Kain, Omar Rabbi Yehuda, Mishi yesh li shnei batim shnei tzidei Rishus HaRabim. Oi! I forgot to get the picture out of my pile. But you guys know what it looks like. You have two houses on two sides of the street. Unbelievable case we had in the beginning of Sechta. And Rabbi Yehuda says I can put two kairos from one house to the other, or two lechis, and I could carry in the street. What do Chachamim say? And I could carry. Amrulai, a Chacham said, Ei ma'arvin reshus harabim b'kach. Meaning, you cannot be matter to carry in the middle of reshus harabim with two cars. But I could be matter in a mavi mefulash. Only reshus harabim you can't. It's mashma that I could use a lechi to allow me to carry in a mavi mefulash. Says the Gemara, Hasam kosaver Rabbi Yehuda, shtei mechitzas d'oraisa. And this is amazing. I should have mentioned it when we learned it back then. I had it written down, but I forgot to say it. What does it mean? Rabbi Yehuda says, you put two lechis, put two broomsticks on my house, in the middle of Ocean Parkway, and all of a sudden I could carry on Ocean Parkway. How does that make any sense? The pshat is because Rabbi Yehuda holds that the wall of my house, the front walls, they act as mechitzos. And two mechitzos make a reshus hayachid, according to Rabbi Yehuda. So I just add a little bit of a lechi and a little bit of a kaira for a hecker. But the kaira and the lechi are not making a mechitza. The mechitza is the actual house that sits on Ocean Parkway on the street. The whole giant wall of my house, that's the mechitza. That's all I need for reshus hayachid. Fine, I guess we'll stop right over here. Rabbi Boy, have a wonderful Shabbos. We'll see you Motzei Shabbos at 9:15. Thanks once again to Shia Greenfield for sponsoring this past month. Thank you to Fischl from Official Catering for coming up with the idea and sponsoring the first month. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos. Adonai Shema B'Korli, Tiyano Azach Gashu V'ez L'Kol Dachuloi. Ima B'nei Tishmo Yadonai Miyamo. V'chas L'Chol Leman Tivorei. Kivisi Adonai Kivson Nafshi L'Vayichalti. This is why we call him so many come to school. No, could you say like a special Mishaberach maybe? Gabriella? Amen. Yishkoyach Dom.
Lady Freeman Bonnie here at 12:30 last night. The mamish helped me out tons.
So when was the baby born?
Right now. Mamish in the middle of this year.
No, so what do you see? Isn't that a sign from Hashem? There's 24 hours in the day. There's 24 hours in the day, and she was born in the 45-minute period of this year. So what does it tell you?
Yeshua, get off the Zoom and go to your wife.
How big was she? I don't know. I still haven't been inside. I was there for 2 seconds.
This is a daf baby, my friend. This is a daf baby. He's busy texting people to get on to the Zoom share. He has no.
Ellie, it was crazy that I ran the whole CM with my wife.
Yeah, amazing. She held off until after the CM. Beautiful.
It's so ghosting. Now you understand why I was up at 4 a.m. texting you about the CM over there in your place.
You're a big man.